ladies and gentlemen. The annual public service lecture provides a suitable rallying point for the public service to share thoughts and experiences on topical issues and stir up critical thinking for the advancement of the service. In this regard, I'm glad to recognize the presence of our keynote speaker and lecturer today, Mrs. Ifeko Okaru. She's an accomplished chartered accountant, management consultant. She's also a former executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria and chairman of the Joint Tax Board. As the most potent and viable instrument available in the country for the formulation and implementation of policies and programs of government, the civil service remains on course to deliver on its mandate. It therefore behoves us as public servants to avail ourselves of the opportunities, expand our knowledge, improve on our capabilities and competencies for the performance of our duties and responsibilities. Once again, I welcome you all to this memorable event to mark the 2021 Civil Service Week. Finally, I urge us all to listen attentively to the keynote speaker, particularly those joining virtually, as we have done our best to make this session very interactive. Thank you, and God bless us all.
She was a part-time member of the United Nations Committee of Experts on International Cooperation in Tax Matters from August 2009 to July 2013, where she was chairman of the Subcommittee on Capacity Building. As executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, she was a member of the Nigerian President's Economic Management Team and a member of the National Stakeholders Working Group of the Nigeria.
Thank you, Elder. Good morning. Permit me to deviate a little bit from the full alignment with protocol and to especially thank the head of service for this honor and opportunity to be here and to recognize all those here today, both physically and electronically, to listen to this lecture. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope post this lecture, I'll also get feedback on whether indeed your expectations were met and whether indeed there are other areas that we need to look at. But let me also especially thank the distinguished awardees today, those who will be getting the awards for outstanding performance. It is indeed an honor to have you here. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And to all other 600 members who are here of the public service, thank you. Now, before I start, the head of service did me a great honor by recognizing my dad. He wasn't here at the time, but I'd like to extend our recognition to him for his being here with me today. Thank you, Daddy. The idea of bringing my dad here actually occurred to me this morning. And thinking about him, thinking about my mother, I'm thinking about the grace that's brought me here today. I felt the one thank you I could give him was for him to be amongst his former colleagues. am a child of the public service. My parents devoted their entire lives to the public service. And I hope that as we celebrate the Civil Service Week, and as we celebrate the whole idea of an aspiration of putting citizens, and let me also say residents, at the center of our programs and policies, that we celebrate those that have left us as well. We celebrate them not just when in service, we reward them not just when in service, we reward them after they have left. But also to recognize that we are all going to age. And I hope, in line with what the federal government has done in putting in place a seniors center, that the seniors of the service get the recognition on a continuing basis. And it's recognition not so much in terms of plaques, but even just calling them and finding out how they're doing. So thank you for this opportunity to recognize one of ours. Now for the theme for today. I was asked, where's my speech? And what I've realized for some time now is I prefer to just talk, and then after I give the speech. And I say this because sometimes in a written speech, it's difficult to go outside the box. And sometimes in looking outside the box, what I hear in real time drives what is said. And first, let me, before I continue, recognize the Africa Initiative for Governance, who the head of service also recognized as a partner of the transformation of the civil service. But also because I'm also a former fellow, it's never former, fellow of the African Initiative for Governance. I was given that honor for contributions to the public service in the year 2019 and 2020. And what that has done is to enable me reflect on my time in the public service. And some of what I'm going to be discussing today comes from that reflection. And it's a continuing process of reflection of what we have done better, what did we do right, how can we continue to be moving our country and our continent to where we want it to be. So thank you, Africa Initiative for Governance, for the work you do on a continuing basis in uplifting the civil service. The Agenda 2063 is Africa's blueprint and master plan for transforming Africa into the global powerhouse of the future. It's in that context we're celebrating this Public Service Week, because through this agenda, the Public Service Week, I believe, came to be. Now, just reading this, the first thing that occurred to me, and I'll come to the core sub-theme later, but I'm doing that because technology is a tool for an end. In discussing what I did in the Federal Inland Revenue Service, we did not hear anything about technology. It's not on the paper. But believe me, without technology, we couldn't have gotten as far as we did. And without the people of the service, we could not have gotten as far as we did. So those twin issues will drive my later discussion on the sub-theme. But the context I want to put in place will derive from the agenda and the larger theme. So if all we are doing is in the context of Agenda 2063, Africa's blueprint for transforming Africa, I dwelt on that, I reflected on that word. But before I reflected, I asked myself, did I know about Agenda 2063, the year 2063? The answer is no. Not a clue, until I saw it in the invitation to this week and to this lecture. And what that tells me is that at the African level, and we want to do the agenda, want to transform Africa. In transforming, we have to carry everyone along. And the first step in carrying everyone along is for us to broadcast, educate, let people know that we even exist or what we want to do. So it's a really brilliant agenda, but from my experience, not just in the Federal Land Revenue Service, but also working with the public service in coming through Vision 2010, and that was as far back as 96, 97. A lot of grand ideas are available, and we put every single thing into these ideas. Fantastic ideas that if we just execute, we will not be where we are, we'll be a lot higher than where we are today. But they don't move on, they don't transcend, because first, people don't even understand what we're doing. Two, after the driver has left office, somebody else comes with another good idea, and then we have a series of good ideas, and sometimes always starting from the beginning. That truncates the ability to truly transform. It helps in a transformation agenda that we communicate aggressively across creed, across tribe, across age group, across level, across sector, to be sure we're all on the same page. And that we do it from one administration to the other for transformation to truly happen. And so 2063, the year 2063, is 42 years away. There'll be several people who will be heads of service between now and then. The critical issue would be, how do we pass the baton from one head of service to the next, to build on each other? How do we learn from past mistakes? And how do we build on what has been done before? Because transformation does not happen overnight. It takes a while. So that's the context I'd like to first start with. The second context I'd like to mention is that in the Agenda 2063, in what we want to transform into, there were like 7 different areas that were identified. One was professionalism, transformation, being more professional. Image, innovation, motivating public servants, rewarding excellence, enhancing trust in government, and sharing best practices. Each one of those things takes a lot of hard work to achieve. To be professionals takes time, and even takes understanding of what being professional means. So for some of us, it means starting on time. For some of us, it means service at all times, whether you're at home, you're in the office, you're on the road. Who you see is what you get. But we all need to have a common language of what that is. And to get that, it's not just about being in a training room, or it's not just about, it takes supervision, it takes performance management, and one of the realities that I've come to face over time, and let me just talk a little bit about performance management, is that it's probably one of the most difficult things to do. Because some people take feedback well, many people don't. And if we need feedback to be better, and we do not like feedback, then that truncates the ability to be a professional and the ability to really get to the highest level. So there are a lot of things we need to unwind in terms of ourselves as individuals to achieve these goals that we've set for ourselves. Innovation is another focus area for the master plan. And innovation is linked to technology. The technology we all enjoy today, the ability to speak through this microphone, and you can all hear, took someone somewhere researching, someone somewhere being determined to make this happen, someone somewhere ready to put the sacrifice in, and someone somewhere who had the enabling environment and the space to work that will enable that person to be innovative, to see the idea translate to action. To therefore create an innovative environment takes a lot. And some of it is outside what you can teach. Some of it is outside what you get in school. A lot of it is how we relate to each other. How we encourage, for example, women. How we treat them. How we do not abuse them. How we respect them. So that way they have that space to be their best because they believe in themselves. And so innovation is a complicated word because all these ingredients come to play in creating that space to build that environment that will drive that innovative spirit in such a way that the person doesn't get frustrated. So it's both what we create within the service, but it's also what we create as a service of government, for government to create that enabling environment that touches every single person and creates that environment where we have that freedom. We've created some of that in music, either deliberately or unconsciously, maybe because we are inherently creative people, maybe. Or maybe our culture gives us those tendencies to be creative. But else we need to think about how we got innovation in art, in music, and how can we apply to innovation in technology so we are producers, not consumers alone. We're also manufacturers, not buyers and traders alone. How can we build that innovative spirit? How can we create that enabling environment where people don't feel that they don't need to think about certain things? Those things are thought of for them and they can just focus on getting things done. Motivating public servants is another goal of the African agenda and is a goal of the head of service. And I believe a goal of past heads of service. And I see one right in front of me who had that also as a goal. But motivation is also a very tricky word because there's no one way to motivate one person. Some of us think that to motivate is just about financial reward. Now don't get me wrong, finance is important. In fact, in the FRS, before we could even start thinking about anything, it was clear that we needed to improve the reward structure for our staff. And it's important that we invest in people and let them feel that they are recognized, even in asking of them what to do, not just by increasing salaries, but not just by we want to promote, but the timeliness of promotion. All that is important. But let me tell you a little story about motivation. After improving our reward structure in the service, some people were annoyed. Sounds funny. They said, take the reward structure, we don't want it. They should leave us the way we are. And the reason I later got to know was that the structured reward that is transparent was uncomfortable because it was on the table. The reward that we could not see under the table, in the minds of certain individuals, was a lot better. So that was for them what was motivating them. And that led us to having several sessions and engagement sessions, explaining, helping to rethink that whole process of why certain things are important and will be more fulfillment and will give contentment. And there's a long process of engagement over and over and over again. But the message is reward is an interesting subject matter. Some people are not even motivated by money. They will do work, they will stay, they will be retained because they're well paid, but they're not motivated to be their best because of the salary. What motivates is giving them space. What motivates is giving them challenges. What motivates is a boss that looks on them and recognizes their potential and gives them responsibility aligned with who they are. And they will do anything and be the best we could ever think about. So, transforming Africa, transforming Nigeria, transforming the civil service are very important ingredients, but very, very difficult, should not be understated, and any leader that puts that as a goal and puts everything into it, just like one of the speakers has said, should be supported. Supported not just in voice, I'm loyal self, no. Supported in deed. And it's what you do when the leader is not looking that is the support. Not what you do just when the leader is looking. I've been told, as I look at this topic, to share my thoughts, my experiences with what I have started. And I think the first I've tried to do is to say, whatever we talk today goes beyond words. Should go to our belief systems, go to what we believe, and we need to strongly align what we say, what we do, with what we believe. If that alignment is not there, it makes waking up in the morning to go to work extremely difficult. Or it makes going to work a mechanical process. And I hope, therefore, that as we take on these issues that we're going to be discussing today, you search for and discover what will work for you to be able to align with what others have done. So that way there's connection, and that's where there's results. The sub-theme, deploying technology to sustain and enhance service delivery in the face of challenging COVID-19 pandemic, is what I've been told to speak on. And let me dare say that in looking at this topic, I put in bracket, in the face of challenging COVID-19 pandemic climate. I say this because what I really want to speak of is deploying technology and sustaining and enhancing service delivery, full stop. If what you do is done well, if what you do recognizes the role of technology, if what you do recognizes that whatever you do, if anything happens, you are quick to respond, you are flexible, you have robust strategies in place because we really can't know everything, the chances that you will succeed in service delivery are a lot higher. Today, we have COVID-19, and it came upon a lot of us, if not all of us, not just in Nigeria, not just in Africa, in the entire world, by surprise. No one can say they were that prepared for COVID-19. We were all learning. As we speak, we are still learning. Even the vaccines we've all taken, we are still learning. So this is the learning environment we are in, and I believe what COVID-19 has done to us is to recognize the importance of learning as you go, not being stuck to your comfort zone. Be ready to change when you need to change because it's important to change. And those who have taken advantage of the opportunities that the environment has provided are those who were prepared before the COVID-19. Not just in terms of their kinds of businesses. So for example, there was Zoom before COVID-19. But somebody had thought about Zoom to use it for meetings, the convenience, the speed, the low cost. And so we started using it and their business soared even more. Amazon had continuous, and I think perhaps recently they are now having a slight profit, have recognized as far back as over 20 years ago the importance for online retail, the importance of technology, and have grown and grown and grown a business on that basis, even without making a profit. Their business moved during COVID. So the message really is how to be nimble, how to be foresighted as much as you can, but how to also recognize that all these businesses I've spoken about speak to the tool that has been there with us for years to take advantage of, and that is technology. Technology, for me, rather than COVID-19, the use of it is the new normal. And the more we use technology to drive what we do in government, for example, the better we're ahead of the curve. And perhaps not even technology being the new normal, it's innovation, it's thinking outside the box, it's critical reasoning, critical analysis. And it's not just for the Ministry of Digital Economy, it's a lifestyle. I remember when in 2004, I was coming in from the private sector, then we were already using computers and so on, and I was going into the Federal Revenue Service, and I realized it's a very manual system, very manual. We had computers on the tables of directors, not being used and covered. Computers were a status symbol. And I'm talking about 2004. Something tells me, I remember saying this at a forum, that today, in certain organizations, or ministries, or departments, or agencies, or offices, or units, it continues to be a status symbol. And if I'm wrong, please raise your hand. not to say, just to talk about it not being supportive of what we're discussing, but to talk about how we changed it. Because change is difficult. And just deploying, and I'm using a very basic thing, deploying the use of computers into the organization took us, for example, removing the need to have secretaries in the first instance. There were certain things we needed to do to force the change. And at the beginning, believe me, a lot of people do not like change and do not like it. And so, as we're deploying technology, you're going to find that it moves people from comfort to discomfort. How you manage it is important, but don't feel bad about it. Stay focused on your end. And what is that end? It's really for the people. If we have that at the back of our minds, that whatever we're doing, we're not just doing it because it's a checklist. We're not doing it because they told us to do it. We're doing it because we can see that if you do not change, you will lose out. And you pass that message on. And keep that message consistently. Gradually, people will listen. They may not listen at the beginning. I can tell you this, because when I left FRS, if I tell you that I wasn't tired, I'll be lying. It was struggle here, struggle there, but you know, I left 2012. This is 2021, 9 years after. I still get references, and so it was worth it. It's worth it. If what you do puts the people at the heart, because people will see through it. So back to the issue of deploying computers. I had this gentleman in my office who, even after that, I got to know. By the way, if you're in leadership positions, don't rely on what people tell you. You go out yourself and find out. Because the word deployment means it actually is happening. It's not directed. Deployment is that you actually, you're using it. So I now find out that even after all that, there were now different hotspots of people who use the computer. They will now send their work there. And then they now send it to me like they did it. So, having learned that, I now use him as a case study. Put a computer on his desk and said if he didn't do it himself, I wasn't going to review his memo. And warned everybody, who talked about query? Elder, you talked about query. I would query those in my office who helped him to do the computer in that kind of sense. It was as bad as sending somebody to go for computer training, and you could feel that they were scared of even touching the computer. Today, I'm proud to say that person flows. But it didn't happen overnight. It took structural change, position change, tools, consistency, tracking, feedback, until it happened. So deployment of technology or deployment of anything is not a one-time directive. It's over and over and over and over and over again. The second thing I'd like to talk about is that in the topic we're saying to sustain and enhance service delivery. Sustaining means after you've left you can still go back and feel that some of what you're willing to do continues. I've talked about that earlier on. Enhancing service delivery. This actually made me smile because I remember Servicom when I was in government. Does Servicom still exist? But it looks like we've kind of mellowed down on the image. It was such a broad program, I don't know. I mean, it's not something I feel these days, but that's probably because I'm not in government. So I'm glad to know that Servicom still exists. And I hope that in looking at when Servicom started, which was definitely at least over 20 years ago, if I left 9 years ago, and when I came in, Servicom was already in existence. I was there for 8 years. So definitely, it's quite a while. That if we track where we are vis-a-vis where we started, we can, in measurable terms, talk about the progress we've made. Because service delivery needs to be translated to metrics. It's not service delivery just to talk about it. So if I now go into a ministry, department, or agency, and I submit my invoice for a bill that you've already approved, is it paid in 24 hours? 48 hours, 72 hours, 6 months, 3 years. We need to be able to track what was it when we started, what is it now, has it changed? If we're not able to drive service delivery to a point where it's measurable and we can see the difference, then it becomes a buzzword. And you can't enhance what you really don't know the starting point of. Now, in deploying technology to sustain and enhance service delivery, the reason technology is so important and so vital is that it makes all these things we're talking, it forces these things to happen, to set metrics, to track, to give feedback, to give you data. And I know in the civil service, there are some things that we talk about that are technology driven. So for example, the IPIS, which is one thing that I know has been driven, that integrated performance and payroll integrated systems. I hope I got the acronym right. But my sense of IPIS is that it helps reduce costs. It helps improve revenue collection, at least from PAYE. But what I don't know is whether IPIS has been positioned with others to enhance service delivery. And it's important for the sustainability of IPIS, so that one day somebody doesn't just say, jack it off. Because there have been a lot of fights at different levels. I don't want to be an IPIS, I want to be an IPIS. And the person against IPIS will one day be in the position. Is how to ingrain whatever we do that is technology driven, so that it falls in the ambit of service. But not just service to the public, but service to those who are operating the IPs as well. Because we're all stakeholders. Another one that's been talked about is GIFMS, again to enhance financial management. Again, how does this position in this overall service delivery mantra? So there's quite a lot going on, but the deployment of technology that will result in enhanced service delivery that is measurable in such a way that I, as the citizens or the residents that is being served by the civil service, can tell and speak for you that service has indeed improved, is one that we need to perhaps relook at the architecture to say, how can I become your spokesperson? Not you telling me what you've done, but me telling you what you've done is for me the real test of service. And how does that become a goal, and how does that track? And it's important, therefore, that as we think about all that, we put in place a policy that will drive that. But it's not a policy on a one track. It should cover how to get everyone technology driven, every single person. It should cover how we can use technology to do the simple things and then build to the more complex things. So if, for example, I want to go on leave today in the civil service, can I just press a button? And if I can do that, then we started that journey. And do I use that technology to provide data, publish that data, show the public that we are using that data for that reason, just for that, be able to give data on how many leave days we've gone in a year? Because sometimes I feel that there's a disconnect between what happens in the service and how the public perceive what is going on in the service. And that connection is always so important. Because technology can make you do that. You can use your website, you can use your social media channels, you can post that data, you don't even have to have any human being interfacing with it, and you can provide that. Little steps that build onto the bigger steps. And walk back to what do the public need? What do the public want? One is time. They want to be attended to on time. And if we focus on that metric and then track that, so that everything else we are doing, whether it's performance management, whether it's the SOPs, whether it's IPs, whether it's business, achieve what government wants it to achieve, helps then address what the public wants, then you really have had enhanced service delivery on that one metric of time. So perhaps that policy, thinking through that, in place, that will make use of technology and achieve what people want it to do. Let me just talk a little bit about some technology trends that are out there. And we see that happening in other sectors, but the question is, how are we using these technology trends within the civil service? Cloud computing is one, where all data is all out there, and I know there are government agencies responsible for that, but is it pervasive across, so that at the click of a button, you have your information that you want at your fingertips, and it's all stored out there in the cloud. Cloud is just a nomenclature for it being stored in a server somewhere. Mobile technologies. How have we interfaced the use of the mobile phone in how we deliver service within the civil service? And how we also use the mobile phone technologies to counter the risk of mobile technology, to breach confidentiality rules, leakages that go out, because people can now quickly use their phone to take pictures of official documents, and before you know it, it's all over the place. How have we used technology to counter that ability within the civil service to achieve a goal of confidentiality, for example? Big data and analytics. How have we used that to drive government? Today, I see a lot of what the World Bank, for example, is doing through their SafeTask program in working with the state governments on certain disbursement rate indicators to make change happen, and insisting that it needs to be published. But SafeTask is going to end soon. How do we create programs within government that will force publications to give information that should be readily available to the public, available to them? technology, or how do we create programs that will force people, instead of complaining about the civil service, force them to actually do something about their complaint, empower them, and then give them feedback when what they've complained about has been done. Through that way, we can build a whole generation of people who are now not just complaining, but actually doing something because they feel that action has been taken. Because sometimes you get into a complaint loop because you just feel that even if you're doing something, nothing will be done. And it's a mentality that does not drive innovation. It's a mentality that does not help build our future generation of civil servants. Because they come in thinking that, you know what, nothing gets done anyway. How do we use technology to change that? How do we use technology to drive cybersecurity? And support and build an enabling environment where, in an environment where in every home, what we're discussing today is insecurity, banditry, drug abuse, kidnapping. The other day, the president talked about how drug abuse is perhaps even more, more of a problem. But how we in government using technology to build the enabling environment that empowers people to deal with these issues. And if you are, how are we communicating to everyone? RFID technologies, where just with your card, and we have that ability with the cards that the banks are doing, you don't have to use a key to get into your building. You can just, use a card with RFID technologies and it opens. So there's so much technology is available, so much technology that can be done. I mean, for example, blockchain technology, a lot of us just think about blockchain from the point of view of cryptocurrencies. But it's a lot more than that. And governments are embracing this to drive government. So I'm so pleased when the House chairman talked about an e-government bill. Oh, it's important that the e-government bill recognizes that technology is not just a switch on. It's people that will drive this to happen. So after discussing technology and all these nice things, the first question you want to ask yourself is, does the civil servant feel, not even just about being motivated, do they feel appreciated? And I remember when I got into the FRS, and the first thing that the president told me was, you're going to have a cut in salary. And that there could be a way of addressing that, so I did that way I don't have a cut in salary. And my decision to get into the FRS with the existing salary was just so I understand what it takes to be able to live with the salary that is being paid. And it is too small. And that is what led to putting a reward structure in place. When you pay people at levels you won't even pay yourself, you're sending a signal. Even if you later on increase the salary, you're sending a signal that, yeah, I know you're important, but you're really not important. And then we're growing people working in the civil service who now don't care. So when you now start discussing technology, it's only if it's in their interest. Why would they care? Because the salaries are not even, we've moved from issues of minimum wage to living wage. So the message I want to also leave you, and if that's the only message, is that in addition to what we do, whatever we do in deploying technology, in enhancing service delivery, underlying it all
is the importance of people. Evidenced by level of salary being paid, but that's not all. Evidenced by the timing of promotion, and that's still not all. Evidenced by the fairness of the system, so that people trust the system. And it's not just because of, I like this person, so this person has been good to me. The system itself should be good to you. Human being neutral. It should work. We shouldn't have to lobby to be promoted. We shouldn't have to lobby to be posted to agencies that are juicy and not juicy. We shouldn't have to lobby if we have women who are married and have children. There should be a process to bear that in mind. And perhaps a new scheme of service that is being put in place, the new public service rules that are being put in place, will help address some of these issues. But as we address these issues, please bear in mind that putting in place a new policy or a new process is just one side of the coin. We're also dealing with change. And I think what helped me in the Federal Revenue Service, but I came not just because I was an accountant or a tax person, but because I had a background of change management consulting. There's massive change. Even when people want something, but they're not used to it, they don't want it. They don't even know what they want anymore. Because you're dealing with years of baggage, years of things not being happening the way they want it to happen. So how we reorient that mind, again, not just in training sessions, is going to be critical. And that way, we faced Ebola, we surmounted it in Nigeria. COVID-19 has come, we're surmounting it, and we thank God for the Presidential Task Force for all they have done. But how do we take government to that level where everyone on the street, that would be my goal for the Nigerian civil service. Everyone on the street speaks good of the civil service. Says, oh, I did this in 24 hours. I did it in, it's not even 24 hours, I did it at the click of a button. That's what technology enables you to do. And the bigger dream, and let's please have that in mind. Nigeria is a great country. We should never forget that. We've come together with so many different ethnic groups, religious groups, that could be a weakness, but believe me, it's a tremendous strength. We're the largest collection of Black people, African descent people in the entire world. Let's have a goal to change the world, not just Nigeria. I don't know how many times. If we can achieve what we know we have the talent to do, nobody can face us. Let's drop our problems at the door. Let's work together, united. Let's not think of ourselves as the village we came from, or ethnic groups, or the language we speak, or the churches we go to, or the mosques we go to. Let's think of ourselves as that Nigerian group that is here ready to change the world. And we can't change the world. We can't. If we do not have a civil service that drives that change. with the support of the political class, working together to build that Nigeria, even if it doesn't happen in our lifetime. We'll pass the baton to someone else. Because change isn't really about just us, it's about humanity. So let's have that goal in mind. And when the African Union says one of the aspirations or the aspiration of Agenda 2023 is to have a public service that gives service to citizens, let that not be an aspiration. Let that be a daily mantra, like brushing your teeth. We cannot succeed if we do not put people at the center of change. We cannot succeed if we do not love our neighbor, no matter who that person is. We cannot succeed if we do not place women on the table and see them as providers that will succeed and grow this country in ways you can't even think of. We can't succeed if we think men don't also have their issues, because they do. They just don't talk about it. Women are more vocal about it. They keep it within them. Men too are abused. We can't succeed. And all this is what the civil service and government can help drive and help change. And technology of all kinds is there to enable you and to give you a tool to make this happen. Let's leave this week with that challenge, that together we will enhance service delivery. Can we say that together? Together, enhance service delivery. Together, the man on the street will speak well of the civil service and say we got things done on time. Not you speaking, they speaking. Together, we will not look at ourselves only from those that come from us, because we're all the same. But we come with different experiences, we come with different stereotypes, and I understand that. Some of us have been hurt, I understand that. But together, we can move mountains. Thank you.
I said, clap for all the eminent people. Clap for them. I didn't ask you to stop, oh. You're not supposed to stop. In the civil service, we follow obedience to laws and rules. I didn't see some clapping. I said, all of you should clap. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In the service, you obey before you go and complain. Now, I have given you the tips you need to know. So if you don't have this program, please get a copy, because I'm going to follow it now. We have come to a point where we are